Hey, so I'm back. Just want to go over real quick what I got done yesterday. It's actually the next day, so we'll get right into it. Yesterday, I started assembling the block, um, which I talked about a little earlier, and then we measured all the clearances for the main, the rods, got all that ready to go, and then I went to put the cam bearings in. Which I got the fancy, cam bearing installation tool. And the brand I normally use is that Durabond CHP 10. And the company I had called to verify theirs was actually the right one um, gave me a part number, and when I ordered it, it showed up. I didn't really check the part numbers. I guess I'm gonna have to start doing that now. But it was a really small cam bearing. I mean, it was probably an inch diameter less than what the LS cam bearings take. So that kind of put a pause on everything. But I'm kind of one of those people that can't stand waiting. So reordering bearings, they won't be here till Wednesday. To put everything together after that, just, and sit and wait. I'm not one of those people. So I went ahead and I got all the pistons, all the rings put on the pistons, except for number 1 and number 2, because I actually had number 5, number 4, and number 3 cam bearings left over, brand new cam bearings left over. So I went ahead and I put those in so that this way I can do the back 6 cylinders, 7, 8, 6, 5, 3, 4. The front 2, 1 and 2 are left off, or left out. So I went ahead, I got that, I put the head studs in, and what I do for the head studs, or any heads, the LS's, I take a stock head bolt that I keep. I always keep the head bolts. I don't know why I keep them. I never reuse them, but I always keep them. But I take, and I don't know if you can see, I just take my angle grinder and I cut a groove, kind of going down it, almost like a screw kind of groove. And then I take the head and I actually put, like, oh, you can't see it, this one's all mucked up, but I put a cross in the head. I cut a cross in the head, or cut like a star. I just cut a bunch of lines in the head. And you can see on this one all the crap that it takes out. So when you run this down, almost like a thread chaser, when you run this down, run it back and forth with some grease on it, and take it out every once in a while and clean the threads, you'll see the threads will be absolutely packed with crap. If you were to try and take, even reuse a set of head bolts or a new set of head bolts or a set of studs and wheel it down in there, what will happen is all the crap in the threads will shove down. And I've seen in a couple cases on the side of the block, I've actually seen where they just rammed the head stud down in with a little Allen wrench and just kept going and going and going to get it down far enough. Because if they do stick up, those head studs, if they stick up too far, it'll actually hit manifolds and headers and stuff. But I've seen where they rammed it down so far that they actually cracked the block down inside. They cracked like the bore for the thread hole, which is not something you really want to do, because then your block at that point is kind of trash. So again, being that I don't like waiting and sitting around, I had another block laying around. I got a bunch of set of heads. A lot of them are junk. Some are just stock heads. But I went ahead and I bolted the motor to the transmission to the motor. Stuffed it in the car. I got the plates, the ICT billet plates with the Moroso motor mounts. Bolted to the engine. You can see a little better on this side over here. I bolted them to the engine, and they are marked driver's side, passenger side. But if you put them on the correct way, on this car, in this case anyways, it put the motor mount, that Moroso motor mount, and this has a bunch of adjustment holes where you can put the motor mounts in different positions, but it put the plate really, really far forward, and then even all the way at the back adjustment, the motor mount, the back tab was sitting like here, and the front tab was out here. So I just took the plate off and I swapped the sides, and it moves the whole plate backwards on the block. And then I was able to put the Moroso mounts, and they're pretty well lined up with the K-member. So I'm kind of debating on the K-member if I should just weld a 1/4-inch plate or an 1/8-inch plate right on top of the K-member, and then kind of build off of that. They are going to be like a solid motor mount that I'm going to do on these. So I'm just debating on whether I should plate it first, which I'll probably end up doing. But what I'm debating is either plate it and have it bolt to the K-member, or weld the plate to the K-member, which I'll probably end up just welding the plate to the K-member. It'll probably just be easier that way. And right now, it's not really sitting in any kind of position where it needs to be, sitting on top of the rack. But the tranny's on a cheap Harbor Freight transmission jack, just to kind of hold it in there for now. Once I get the drive shaft yoke, which should be here, I think tomorrow, I plan on pulling the drive shaft out, putting the Turbo 400 yoke on it, assuming that I have the right U-joint for it, and then I'll put the yoke, the drive shaft back in and slide it into the transmission. And that's where, for me, I'm going to base the motor position off basically that stock drive shaft length. This way he doesn't have to shorten, lengthen, get a new drive shaft, whatever, as of right now. And if he does ever get a new drive shaft, he can use the stock length drive shaft. So Zach actually came up yesterday with a buddy of his, and the rear end had made really horrible noises. So he went ahead, little bit of help from me, but not much, but he went ahead and he pulled the diff cover off. The gear fluid was absolutely black. I mean, horribly black. But it had a nice metallic shine to it, which is always cool. It adds flavor. But that's not a good thing. So he ended up pulling the axles. And I don't know how well we'll be able to see them on the camera, but when he pulled the axles, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. You could actually see the splines. I don't know how well you can see it in the camera, but the splines are tore up on both shafts. So we looked, where is it? Here it is. When we looked at the carrier, we noticed there was a shim. So, that's the stock carrier, and it gets these bearing cups, and then it has a bunch of shims that set it for the pinion and ring gear to mesh correctly. So when I pulled the carrier out, I noticed that they have, the way they have it is, they have these, it's kind of a shim, I don't know the technical name of it, but it's got a little lip, and that holds the shims. And they had that in backwards, which is really weird. And then this one here is the one that was kind of hanging out like this. On the other side, it was hanging out. So whoever, I'm assuming somebody had taken it apart and put it back together. They really messed it up. Alright, sorry about that. Got interrupted, but we were talking about the diff. Yet another thing that somebody at some point had taken apart, and just kind of stuck back together. Luckily, the ring and pinion don't look like they're beat up, so we should be able to reuse that. The only other issue is that these stock axles, I believe these are the 28 spline axles. I've yet to count them yet. I'm yet to count them. But we can do that real quick. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep, these are the 28 spline axles. So my best guess with this would not be a good option to go back to these axles. So what I have offered is back there. I have an 8.8 rear end that I hoard. I try and get them whenever they come up for a good price. Sometimes the junkyards just go crazy. Somebody on the YouTube told everybody to get 8.8s, and suddenly everybody wants 8.8s, and the price of them has gone through the roof. But there's times where I could still get them for a fairly good price. So my plan, hopefully, is to be able to take the carrier out of that one, because that is the 32 spline carrier, and just swap it into his car, and then he can get a set of, hopefully, which I'm still looking into. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a Mustang guy, but I'm pretty sure he could just order basically a stock replacement 32 spline 4-lug axle that should fit right in his housing. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, please, before I tell him to do this. But like I said, I still have some research to do and figure that out. But fingers crossed, from what I found so far, that is what we should be able to do. So the brakes aren't too bad on that. But hopefully we'll get it together. That's kind of where we are right now. I'm hoping to have the motor mounts made, pull this one back out, and have his motor ready to go in Thursday or Friday, and then I can start doing the fun stuff and building the turbo hot side. And then just got to get with him on just ordering some more parts, because that's what building cars is all about, is consistently ordering parts over and over and over. Oh, the other thing, I cleaned the heads up, and I just did a quick lapped in the valves real quick, and then I went ahead and put the BTR springs on with the new valve seals on there and everything. I went ahead and put those on, so those are ready to go. They're all cleaned up. One final quick clean of them before they actually go on the motor, and should be ready to go. So, oh, that's bright light. Now it's flashing. So hopefully, like I said, by the end of next week, hopefully I'll have that motor in this car, and we'll be working on the hot side turbo kit, new turbo kit. I did get some. I ordered some stainless tubing, couple of V-band clamps. So all of that should be here, I think tomorrow actually. I actually already got the V-band clamps, but the exhaust tubing will actually be here tomorrow. And then I can start working on that. So that's it for now. So please click the like, subscribe, the little bell. It'll notify you of any new videos that we put out. We're trying to put them out at least once a week, maybe twice a week, but trying to put them out as much as I can. Love doing what I do, and any help and support, it shows me that you guys like watching these. So hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment, please. Have a good one.